Okay, everybody's got a fucking podcast. I mean, we have a podcast, so obviously anyone can do it.
Wait, this is a podcast?
Are you recording right now?
Technical difficulties.
No, you don't have to say anything. I'm gonna edit it out.
Technical difficulties.
Okay.
I put mayonnaise on a pickle.
It was not the best, but it might have been the worst.
Do my feet? I mean, my feet stink, right?
Yeah. All right. It's time. It's time to set the record straight, Jason. All these goddamn Halloween movies.
It's a little excessive.
I'm sick and tired of these goddamn Halloween movies in these goddamn cinemas.
I myself have personally had about 20 some Halloweens, and none of them sucked as much as some of these.
Well, yeah, I mean, they would suck if you got murdered or, you know, you had even the implication of maybe getting murdered.
Yeah, as far as I know, there haven't been any like mass stabbings or, annual spiritual ritual stabbings in my neighborhood, unless they've just been, keeping that under wraps.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, if that happened in my neighborhood, I'd probably try to keep it on the DL.
Yeah, but think of the property value. You can get a house for a bargain.
Yeah, I already bought my house though, so it's kind of like.
Yeah, well, some things aren't about you, Tyler.
Well, in this case, I suppose not. Okay, so the series overall, the movie watcher in me says that these are terrible movies and that they're bad, but there's a side of me that likes a good Halloween, just slasher, dude running around, killing people, high stakes.
At no point is dude running around.
No,
Let us be clear.
You're correct. You're correct. I misspoke. I'm sorry. I don't know. There's obviously many different ideas as to why this dude doesn't die. In the newer movies, Laurie seems to go on in some speech about how he is evil itself, and that the more people get scared, the more power it gives them. In so many words, they movie monologue it out.
Yeah.
It's a long,
Excellent
thing.
cop out. Oh, you can't kill him. He's just too evil.
Yeah.
6 more movies. Why not?
He makes us too much money. And, there's the cult thing that, is kind of mentioned offhand by Loomis in Halloween 2, and then they kind of go into it, and The Curse of Michael Myers, and I kind of didn't like that movie, but I like Paul Rudd, so that's fun. And lots of possibilities. I basically just try to enjoy these movies and wonder why no one ever just tries to throw this guy in a damn wood chipper.
And that's what I was thinking. I think at the... Again, so just as an aside to this, when me and Tyler were talking about this before, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what happened in each film. And as I'm talking to him or watching the Rob Zombie movies, as I'm talking to him, I'd be like, oh yeah, and then in the 4th movie when this happened, he's like, no, and that was the 5th one. I was like, oh shit, what about this? He's like, that was the 6th one. I had thought I was okay, and I was so very wrong. It was mildly embarrassing how confidently sentences came out of my mouth for Tyler to tell me, no, that was the wrong movie, but...
It happens, but that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Because, we're recording this in late September, but if you're listening, it's at least October 30th, or viewing, or whatever the fuck, because Halloween Ends comes out October 14th of 2022, and we're going to go see it, and we'll do a quick review thing on it. But I wanted to, I thought it would be a great time to just go, hey, this is the deal with all these Halloween movies, because we can't expect every member of the public to go out and research and seek out all this information, watch all these godforsaken movies.
And I almost wouldn't recommend it.
I myself had a good time. It's just kind of an excuse to watch a bunch of bad movies.
Yeah. You definitely enjoy them in different ways, Once you take back that it's maybe some things don't make sense, the plot's a little shaky, but like you said, when you kind of take it down to it's a good slasher movie where dude's just mucking about, taking people out. There's still a lot to enjoy in it there.
Yeah. I love it. So basically what I did was just I wrote my own short summaries of just all these movies. I'm not going to include every fucking detail, just kind of some of the main points. We'll start with Halloween, 1978.
Picture it.
Fantastic movie. In my opinion, the best movie of the series. The score is simple, but very effective. And it holds up,
Yeah.
I think.
Well, yeah. I watched this with my wife. Where we're going through this, and she thought it was a scary movie, and she thinks everything is scary, but
Sure.
this was one that she actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
So that tells me something. If it's something she can enjoy, then there's something there that makes it a little bit more, last through the time, last through the ages.
Yeah. So basically, we open up showing Michael as a child. His sister is getting down with a boy. Michael creeps around the house, finds a knife in the kitchen, waits for the boyfriend to leave. That guy's no peripheral vision, by the way. And then walks upstairs, murders his sister. 15 years later, Dr. Loomis and a nurse are on their way to the hospital, transport Michael to a court hearing. You would think they'd provide a little more security than just, a nurse and an old doctor with a, what is expected to be a serial killer. He's not quite a serial killer just yet.
Yeah.
He just killed his sister, but...
You could see it in the eyes.
Yeah.
it's just waiting. Understaffed and underfunding seems to be pretty prevalent through some of these movies too.
Yeah.
There's never enough people to actually get anything done.
Yeah. So he escapes, surprise, surprise, and
Fantastic driver.
yes, fantastic driver, having never driven a vehicle before. 6 years old now, he's 21, and he's just figuring it out on the fly. Steals the station wagon, takes, makes a stop, takes a mechanic's overalls, and, proceeds to stalk Lori and her friends, rob a hardware store for knives and rope, kid stuff, as the sheriff says.
Yeah.
Proceeds to terrorize these girls babysitting across the street from one another, slowly picks them off, until a final showdown where Lori's protecting the two kids that were being babysat. Michael's shot 6 times by Loomis, falls off the balcony, yet still disappears when they look down to see him. That's, in essence, the first movie, and that by which every movie is kind of held up to and fails the test.
And I'd almost argue, at least in this first movie, that the police are the real villains. Because they do nothing useful the entire time and just blow things off as, it's just kids!
And it really never ends in any of these movies with these
Yeah.
police just going like, well... I mean, again, though, it's like they can never believe. It's like, yeah, well, that was that.
Yeah.
Like, that was years ago. He's not gonna do it again.
Just, could you imagine if he did it again? He would look silly. There's no way he's gonna come back. Phone starts ringing. Hey, it's Mikey.
He
Like, all right, I'll be down in a minute.
He murdered like 6 people again. You should probably get over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and it's funny because it's like, it's not even, like, a lot of the time they do the whole, just rumors.
Yeah. And, overall, like, the vibe kind of seems small-towny through all these. It's like, you'd think word of mouth alone, like, everyone would know exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
And, like especially once we move into some of the other ones with, adoptions and children's and stuff, it's like...
Yeah.
We'll get into it.
It's a lot. So Halloween 2 is 1981. Picks up right where the end of the first film leaves off. Laurie's taken to the hospital while Loomis and the sheriff go looking for Michael. Loomis sees a man in a mask and is convinced it is Michael. Did you watch this one, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Loomis sees a man in a mask, convinced it is Michael. The sheriff stops him from shooting the guy. With the panic caused, drives him into traffic. He's hit by a police car that then pins him between it and a van that catches fire, and he's burned to death.
So, I made note of this thing where I was like, R.I.P. to blonde Michael, running over the dude wearing the same mask. Can't wait for that phone call. The parents like, yeah, Mrs. Broccoli, yeah, I've got some bad news. You know your son Jimmy? Yeah, of course you do. He bought the wrong mask.
Well, and that's the funny thing is, it later turns out to be Ben Tramer, Laurie's crush mentioned in the previous movie, which then holds no weight because she never finds out and she runs off with the ambulance guy, Jimmy.
I think that just goes back to we have to kill everyone close to the target,
Yeah. So that was, That was just funny. Like, I just thought it was so funny that they talk about Ben Tramer in the previous movie, and then it's like,
It has no repercussions.
it's like, oh, Ben Tramer's dead.
It's like, fuck Ben.
It's like, word.
Do you have any idea what I've been through? Fuck that kid.
Laurie never even finds out. Yeah, anyway, so it doesn't seem... Oh, yeah. No, read that. Okay. Michael runs amok through the hospital for most of the movie, slowly picking off an oddly small hospital staff, but I suppose it's a small town. Eventually, Loomis and two characters not worthy of remembering their names, one being a U.S. Marshal that he held at gunpoint in order to get there, one being disposable, show up and help Laurie with the final confrontation where he blows up and walks out of the fire and falls down dead, allegedly. Before arriving at the hospital, though, apparently Michael broke into an elementary school earlier and wrote Sam Hain in blood on the whiteboard because we needed some exposition, I guess? Laurie's put in the ambulance and there is one last scare, but it is Jimmy who had a sheet on his head. They hold hands and drive off in the ambulance.
Oh,
Halloween 2, not nearly
not as fun.
anywhere as good as the first.
Is
I can
this-
see where, like maybe people were excited at the time because you just get... I mean, I think generally people get excited about a sequel and they just go, hey,
Yeah.
they're doing it again, but... Really
In this... I'm sure that if they had been given a few more years, they probably could have gotten a much better storyline established for
Yeah.
how they wanted to do this, but...
Well, so in reading about it, sort of, mostly in like Halloween 3 a little bit, and 4, not really a lot of details about it in 2, but like he didn't really want to continue on, John Carpenter, with the Michael storyline, and so that's why he kills him at the end of this movie, because then he's not involved when it gets to 4 and 5 and all that. As far as the story goes, he's just kind of like, well, I kind of put my mark on this, and
Yeah.
which leads us into the 3. Apparently, because this movie is completely detached from any of the other movies, other than the name. It's not a slasher. There's no Michael Myers, no Laurie, no Haddonfield, nothing. It's all done. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill believe that the Halloween series could have been an anthology series of films that centered around Halloween night, with each sequel containing its own characters, setting, and storyline. Director Wallace stated there were many ideas for Halloween-themed films, some of which could have been potentially created any number of their own sequels, and that Season of the Witch was meant to be the first. That's pulled from the Wikipedia page.
Yeah. I definitely could have gotten down with that formula. Like, even if it was like a 2-movie thing where it's like the initial thing and then aftermath,
Yeah.
to kind of finish it up. That formula definitely could have run. There could have been enough there, and then they could have still tied in, like, a weird curse thing that was impacting all of these, and then we finish out the series strong with, maybe some of the bullshit we see later on.
Yeah.
But
We didn't go
we
that way.
did not go that direction.
People were obsessed with Michael Myers, and, that's how it went.
It's the masks, man. Everyone had a mask or a face from that era, and like that was the icon that things came from. We had the hockey mask. I think they made Freddy masks because he's got all like the burned
Likely.
skin and shit. And they've got
Or
the
at
Michael
least
Myers
like a
mask.
hand.
Oh yeah. But like, there's always like an icon out of that.
Yeah.
And I guess out of Halloween too. I mean, just the fucking kitchen knife really would have been the icon, but
Yeah. And then Scream kind of
yeah,
overtook
ruined
that
that.
one.
When did Scream come out? Was that like early, like 2000, 2001 or something?
Yeah, maybe like late 90s.
Yeah.
But
I'm bad on.
it's kind of a
timeline here.
Googleable offense, really. If you ask me.
One. Just type it.
96.
Oh, 96. Okay.
So, anyhow. So yeah, Scream kind of took that. But then Scream kind of took up something from all
Yeah.
horror movies, and it's very horror movie meta. And I like Scream a lot.
Yeah.
So to start this movie, we basically have a guy running away from an unknown threat. Eventually gets away. A junkyard worker takes him to the hospital where a guy breaks in and kills him by pulling his skull apart.
Been there.
Did you watch this movie?
No.
Bella? It is worth the watch if you ever come across it.
Yeah.
Just because it is unique in its own right. And yeah, there's a lot of like random bullshit that you just go like,
Whatever.
what? But it's fun.
Yeah. I'll probably enjoy it now after going through these and be like, Jesus Christ, another Michael Myers movie. I'll probably be happy just that it's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good time. Then that guy that killed the guy goes to his car and blows himself up afterwards. An alcoholic doctor witnessed the man blow himself up. The man died, and the man that died's daughter comes to identify the body. The alcoholic daughter and the doctor and the daughter, named Daniel and Ellie, decided to go be detectives and investigate Silver Shamrock Company that makes Halloween masks. That's where Ellie's father had ran into some trouble. They end up banging, naturally, while posing as a married couple staying in the remote town of Santa Mira.
Been there.
Daniel and Ellie are captured. We don't know where Ellie is, but Daniel is captured by... So apparently the dudes that are carrying out all the whims of this business owner that's also somewhat of a evil villain.
Sure.
He's apparently perfected Terminators before Terminators, because these dudes look exactly like people, and but they're robots on the inside. And that's why in the fire, because that guy blows himself up in his car after he kills the one guy, that's why they can't find any like human remains to get like dental records or anything.
It's all just machinery,
because
and
they're like,
shit
yeah,
left
it's just
over.
nuts and bolts. And so then eventually she's like, and then
Skynet.
he's like, and then but then they never get to talk because she gets killed because a robot comes and kills her, and it's a whole thing.
Classic.
So, anyhow, this villain is named Cochran. Apparently, Daniel is Cochran's special guest hostage, and like any evil villain, Cochran unveils his plot. This is where the plot gets ridiculous. Apparently, he stole a piece from Stonehenge and put a little piece of it in each microchip so that when the TV transmission comes on TV, it syncs up with the chips and kills the children wearing the masks. And it's not just like their head gets zapped. Their head kind of like melts and then like bugs crawl out and snakes sometimes. And
Well, I'd have to imagine it's like kind of like underworld portal
Yeah,
technology,
yeah.
just hell opens up inside of their brain.
yeah, it's a whole thing. So yeah, it's worth the watch. I'm just kind of hitting the points, so I won't go into full detail because we're just kind of telling the stories of all these Halloweens, so everyone has a good understanding going into Halloween ends.
Here's what got us
Everything.
here.
Yeah. So yeah. Daniel finds Ellie, or so he thinks, and then escapes by turning on the transmission in the lab and dumping a box of the microchips down in the lab, and all those people get killed that work for Cochran. They're in the car, and all of a sudden, Ellie attacks Daniel. Apparently, they made a robot Ellie, and the real Ellie's dead. Daniel beats her and stumbles to the same junkyard Ellie's father escaped to. He calls, apparently, the god of all television, who has control of all the TV channels. I don't really get it, but he got that guy on the phone. He yells at the guy, said he doesn't have proof, but the guy needs to turn off the Silver Shamrock song on any of the commercials. He gets it off 2 of the stations, but the 3rd station is playing the song, and the movie ends with Daniel on the phone yelling at the guy to turn it off. And, it's a far-fetched movie, but I like the originality.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, it was kind of how that sounds like it finished up. I feel like that definitely could have led to what I was talking about, where the second movie can be like an aftermath kind of thing, where things still kind of continue in one way or another, but they wrap things up.
yeah.
Still got potential energy there.
Some kids died because maybe they didn't get the TV turned off.
Then we get a revenge arc,
Revenge arc.
where he comes back and he makes Skynet 2. And he wants to kill everybody as revenge for having maybe his little brother
Maybe
killed
10
or
kids.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the stakes in the movie was the alcoholic doctor had, a divorce and 2 kids involved, and
Same.
he was trying to call his wife and say like, just throw away the masks, and then the wife's like, you're crazy, you're drunk, are you drunk? And he's like in a warehouse whispering to her. He's like, no, just get that mask.
Throw away the mask, okay? I
And then
can explain it.
she's so pissed off, and then hangs up, and he's like, oh god. So then he's like, I guess I have to do something.
So you think if like he would have just like if she would have been like, okay, I'll throw the mask away, he would have just called it and been like, all right.
I think so. It seemed to be his attitude about it.
It's like, I have secured my issues here. I am going to go to bed.
Yeah, pretty much. So that leads us into Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers in 1988.
My first note was, oh, look, we want money. Guess who had a daughter? Guess who's not dead?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, yeah. They bring back Michael Myers as Halloween 3 didn't do well. The story leaves out a lot of details of in between, but if you just want another Michael Myers kills a bunch of people story,
Here you go.
this movie is for you. They explain right away that Michael and Dr. Loomis almost burned to death, and to show this, they put some scarring on the side of Loomis's face.
He looks remarkably good for that explosion.
Yeah. Honestly, Michael comes out of his sedated state and kills everyone, thus crashing the ambulance and escaping. He goes back to town and terrorizes Haddonfield once again. This time his target is Jamie Lloyd, Laurie's daughter. Not sure if Laurie married the guy from the ambulance at the end of number 2 or what, but it's 10 years later. Laurie had a kid named Jamie, and for some undisclosed reason, Laurie and the father are dead. In H2O, there is newspaper clipping in the opening credits that says Laurie Strode died in an automobile accident, but then H20, she has a son, and they say that they never mentioned the daughter, so who the fuck knows? And they say H20 is not even connected.
Technically part, yeah.
They say that H20 is going off of the end of 2. So that's a whole thing. But Jamie lives with a foster family, and of course on Halloween night, the family has something to do, leaving a little girl and a babysitter all alone naturally.
Here's where I go back to some of the small town stuff. It's Halloween night. Don't you think you'd be a little on edge, a little protective of things? How do people not know?
Well, and if this is Laurie Strode's daughter, too.
Yeah.
All the more reason not to just go fucking party.
So, you know what? And maybe I'll talk about this a little bit more once we get to the end of this. And it's why have we not invested in, bomb shelters? And everyone's just all right, it's Michael night. We're just going to hide in our basement. Because tomorrow, obviously, he'll be gone.
November 1st, Michael's really not interested in killing. Yeah. October 30th, he's really not interested in killing.
Well, except in 2, didn't part of that still take place over the next day?
It's just Halloween night, so Laurie's in the hospital, and then shit's going down in the hospital, and so really, your Halloween 1 and 2 pretty much take place.
Yeah, I thought Halloween 2 had
night.
some section that was still the next day where we got alluded that Michael's still alive. I could be wrong.
I think it's just when they're driving away in the ambulance is pretty much the only part that takes place on November 1st.
That's fair.
I don't know. I'm open to being wrong about that, too. So
I'm very open to being wrong, as we have gone to before.
Yeah, so some fuckery happens and some hillbillies kill a kid because they're after Michael Myers. Some kids were pretending to be Michael Myers. Haddonfield has 4 cops, so naturally they don't do anything and have to wait for backup. Between Loomis and Rachel, which is Jamie's foster sister, they get Jamie out safely and into a truck full of hillbillies, leaving Haddonfield, or so they think. Michael's stowed away on the truck and kills everyone except Rachel and Jamie. Michael's eventually tossed off of the truck and then run over by Jamie, and then firing squad shoots the fuck out of him and falls down. He falls down a mine shaft. Couldn't have worked out more perfectly. Don't know how they worked it out so well.
Yeah. If they really wanted the movie to end, it would have been an actual just grave, and then
Yeah.
Or, better yet, we're rewriting it, okay? Find the original Myers grave from his
Judith
sister.
Myers?
Yeah. And that's where he's standing over, and they find him, and then they shoot him over to where he falls in that grave, because there's still the whole open plot from when he stole the body in the first movie. They just never filled it. So he falls in that, and then that 5-ton tombstone falls in on him. That's how we end the series. Boom. We just wrote a Halloween movie.
It's that easy. That's how they wrote all of these. I know. Laurie, she's dead. Why? Don't care.
Irrelevant.
But she had a daughter.
Why? Irrelevant.
With who? Also irrelevant. Wasn't she 17 in the first movie? This is only 10 years later. Don't care. Alright, so Jamie stabs her foster mother in the bathroom later on in the house when she's running her a bath. And she stands atop the stairs with a bloody knife in a similar costume to what Michael wore when he killed his sister when he was a child. You know, the whole clown outfit. Loomis's solution was to shoot her. Luckily for her, the sheriff stops him and the movie ends. But she had some of that Michael going on in her.
And then one thing I am going to make comment of, I'm pretty sure Jamie used a pair of scissors rather than a kitchen knife.
Could have been.
Well, I made note of that because of something that happens in H5.
Word.
That might also be irrelevant.
Okay. So, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, 1989. Obviously not a lot of thought put into this movie, given that it was a year fucking later. This movie picks up right where 4 left off. It shows what they did to Michael at the end of 4 and how he gets away, because apparently there's a little exit at the back of the mine shaft at the bottom.
Convenient. I mean, I guess it's a mine shaft. It's got to have...
Yeah, it's got to have access or whatever.
But just for him to crawl his heavy ass out of there.
Right before the dynamite explodes, yeah.
In the nick of time.
A man nurses him back to health in some
some
remote
fucking
cottage.
reason.
And then Michael kills him a year later on Halloween, so that's fun. Jamie's been in children's clinic after stabbing her foster mother. Anytime Michael does something, she feels it and has some sort of episode. Rachel has a friend Tina, and they're making plans for a party. Michael kills Rachel after having, after first, a false alarm warning by Jamie. They call Rachel at home, all this stuff. And she's like, no, everybody's fine. The dog comes back, all this. And then Rachel gets killed right after.
So, Rachel was killed with a pair of scissors.
Okay.
And that's why I thought it was interesting, because, they're trying to light touch on, the psychic connection between them. And that was her first kill was with a pair of scissors, and then killing her sister with a pair of scissors.
But remember, the mom was okay.
Yeah.
And, but, again, on Halloween, they're on vacation because they don't care. They're really not invested. Really not invested in their foster child. So, so Rachel's dead. Tina deduces that Rachel went out of town with her parents and proceeds to make hoe plans with her friend Sam.
As is tradition.
Tina's boyfriend is killed, and Michael pretends to be her boyfriend in the car. Jamie's premonitions save Tina. The cops come and get her at a gas station, convenience store, whatever you want to call it. Tina goes to the party anyway with Sam and her boyfriend, just thinking that her own boyfriend is an asshole and is just nowhere to be found. Jamie escapes with her friend Billy, and so there's 2 fucking 7-year-olds just running around Haddonfield trying to save this teenager from a notorious killer.
Kids save the day, man.
Not really. Everybody still dies.
Wow.
But
kids try to save the day. They still have hope in their eyes. They're like, I can fix this.
Yeah.
I can stop him.
Sam and her boyfriend die while fucking in a barn. Tina's eventually stabbed by Michael after a chase where he's in a car and they are not, and it goes on way too long. Loomis has a plan to get Michael, and it kind of works, but a lot of people die, as is tradition. Loomis dies, saving Jamie, or so you think, because he's back in 6.
People don't die unless they need to die.
Yeah. If there's money to be made from them still being alive, they are still alive. The movie ends, however, with Jamie about to be taken back to the clinic by a deputy, but there is gunfire inside the station. The deputy goes back inside to check it out. Jamie follows him back inside and sees that everyone is killed and Michael's cell is open and there's a bunch of smoke in there. And that's how the movie ends, is just the cell filled with smoke and Jamie just staring at it, going like, no. And then, yeah. And we go to...
I just wanted to make note of how much of a fucking comedy it is that Loomis is like, we're going to catch Michael with the net.
The big heavy net. Like he's a fucking bear.
Just the trying to explain that to anybody. So what was the plan? He's like, well, we're going to get a net. We're going to trap it on.
It's a heavy net. It's a heavy net.
It's really heavy. Didn't he lift a 1-ton tombstone? Do you
I'm
think
still
that'll
having
matter?
trouble thinking the Tombstone was a whole ton.
So, okay. So I made note when I was watching through it again. I looked up a thing. I went to a page that was like, how to determine the weight of different types of stones based on this formula.
This is a whole like subreddit, huh?
Well, it was just like this page, and it had to have just been for like something.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I tried like for a minute. I was like, okay, yeah, like I can maybe guess how heavy that thing was, and I started going through it. I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing math for this. But it was like really detailed. I was like, yeah, based off the shape and the dimensions and the type of stone it was, it's probably granite. It's like, here's how you can figure out how much it weighs. I'm just like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah. Excuse me. That whole deal and the. All right, in the end of 5 though, it is kind of funny. I just had the thought of like, like Loomis goes up to Michael and is just like, hey, like, come on, man. Like he's
Like that worked in the however many years he was working with him. Like,
yeah. Like in essence, he's basically like, yeah, like just stop it.
yeah.
Like,
He's like, listen, buddy, don't do it.
and Michael like starts like
He thought about it.
putting the knife down. He's like, okay. So to think that Michael is just like this. I mean, at this point, it's 1989. He's 21 and 78. So, this like 31, 32-year-old guy that's just like this is just like a toddler on a fucking like just like scream like a fit. He's just having a toddler fit, and where he's murdering people, and for Loomis to just be like, oh, come on, and like when you almost get a kid calm down, where they're like, but then like
And then
something
they just
else
get
sets
like
him off,
and then
they're like, So that's literally what I'm thinking of Michael as at the end of Halloween.
he's just
5.
a very big angry toddler.
Yeah. Well, and then like in the same thing where Jamie's upstairs with him, and she's like, he stops everything when she's like, "Uncle," and he's like, oh.
It's like, I don't know, I'm 6. I don't think I can be an uncle.
And she's like trying to like do, and then like she touches him, and that sets him off again. Don't fucking touch me! Then the whole thing's shit again.
Also, we see like just like we see a little bit of his face and not burned or his mask melted to it or anything.
He's cool. He's fine.
Bullshit.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Loomis has just his whole half of his.
It got
face is-
worse in 5. Do you notice that? The scarring in 4 is just kind of like a little bit of stuff, and
No.
then in 5 it's like he's just like he's like Two-Face.
He's Two-Face, exactly.
Yeah, so 6 is by far the most like diluted storyline. It's fun because it's like Paul Rudd, and you're just like, oh look, it's Paul Rudd's first
Paul
movie.
Rudd. Was
And
this his first movie?
It says in present. However they said it in the credits. I'm pretty sure it's the first movie he
Nice.
did, but I'm open to being wrong about that.
Good move,
again.
Paul.
I'm open to being wrong again. This is a continuation of the Jamie Lloyd storyline. It gives slight explanation to Michael. It opens up with Jamie being held captive by a cult having a baby. It's implied in one of these cuts later, like one of these like flashbacks later on, that Michael has impregnated her, and in the other cut, it's not really. There's 2 cuts of this movie.
I read that there was like a producer's cut or director's cut.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
And so, what's the real story? Who fucking
cares?
knows?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, what's the real story? Irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
Yeah. So in one cut, it's like implied that he impregnated her, and it's a whole thing.
Poor girl.
So I didn't have access to like the second cut. I just watched what was rentable on YouTube, where the ending's just kind of simple, and Paul Rudd just kind of throws some rocks on the ground, and Michael stands at it, and he's like, "Sam Hain," as he's being choked, and then Michael's like, I don't know what to do now," and he just stands there. And I thought it was a very bad ending of the movie, but whatever. At least the other cut, the other cut was what I saw first.
Okay.
And it's how it ends with like them running through these tunnels, like trying to run away from Michael. There's a big like confrontation in a lab where there's like all these like fetuses, I guess they experimented on. And so that's right, the Jamie Lloyd like getting impregnated by Michael thing isn't there. Like that cut scene isn't there.
It was more of like
It's
grown
like,
fetus
they've
kind of
been
thing.
experimenting on her, though she still is like giving birth or whatever
Yeah.
to this baby.
They
but
just put it in her to
apparently,
grow.
yeah, because
Science.
in '95, I guess were they doing that sort of thing in '95? I don't know.
You tell us. If any of you are medical
Contact
experts,
Crisis Hotline at yahoo.com. If you know utero history. So yeah, and there's this big scene, and they inject Michael with like these, like I think they're just poisons of some kind, corrosives, whatever. And then the end is Paul Rudd is Tommy Doyle. Do you watch any, or have you seen Curse of Michael Myers at all?
I hadn't seen
Either
it.
cut?
No.
Okay. But then Paul Rudd plays Tommy Doyle
Yeah.
as a grown up, which
I got
Tommy
that
Doyle's
from my notes.
a blonde little kid,
Yeah.
and Paul Rudd is...
People can dye their hair when they grow up. It's fine.
No.
Especially when you're Paul Rudd. You can afford hair dye.
Right, but he was playing Tommy Doyle. Anyway, it ends with Tommy beating the fuck out of Michael with a pipe.
Because that's
Which is
ever
interesting.
worked.
Well, I mean, Michael's injected with corrosives like twice. So he's probably...
He's very corroded.
He's very corroded, all fucked up, I guess. So whatever. But anyhow, getting away from the plot a little bit. Jamie gets away. The midwife that helps her dies naturally, and so does the random man whose truck she steals. She stashes the baby in a cabinet at a bus station, where Tommy finds the baby later.
Terrible mother.
Well, she was about to die, so
Nah.
I don't know. She did put her signal out on. She called into a radio station
talk
that was
show
on the
thing,
bus
yeah.
station, so that's how everybody.
Instead of calling for help,
not 911, just radio station. Dr. Loomis, you out there? It's me, Jamie.
it would have been better if she went in with talk show voice. Like, what's up, all you cool cats and kittens? This is Jamie with a baby. I need help.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Jamie runs from Michael, crashes the truck into a barn, and depending on the cut, either gets stabbed by Michael and she's in the hospital, or just her innards get just fucking mashed up by some hay baler thing.
Yeah.
That gets impaled into her. So in one cut she's absolutely dead, done, over with, and another cut she lives just long enough to get shot in the head in the hospital.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So, only to be killed later on by the Man in Black, which is apparently the cult leader, who apparently is the head of Smith's Grove. So
Coincidence?
irrelevant. So depending on it just gets messy with the cuts. Sorry, I'm having a lot of gaps here. Laurie's extended family are living in a house with a daughter who apparently ran off and came back with a 6-year-old son and is now in college. Abusive father, Tommy Doyle lives across the street in a group home and is reclusive. He's devoted his life to figuring out Michael's motives and has linked it to a druid cult called Thorn, where he makes a blood sacrifice of his own family on Halloween night. Everyone fucks about for an hour and a half. A radio DJ dies at a Halloween party. Kara's brother and girlfriend are killed after having sex, of course. They go back to the boarding house. The cult is there. Apparently the head of the mental hospital Michael was in, and the guy that asked Loomis to take his place at the hospital is the Man in Black, the head of the cult. Here's where the cuts break off. The movie I rented off of YouTube went like this. They took Kara back to where they do rituals, and they were going to sacrifice her, and Loomis and Tommy go save her. Tommy dressed up as one of the cult members, and then pops out, and he's threatening to kill the cult leader.
Yeah.
They escape. Tommy does some weird ritual thing where he makes a circle of rocks and cuts his hand, and Michael stops. Something about energies and cults and yada yada. They leave Loomis.
Whoop-de-fucking-do.
What's it all mean, Basil? They leave, and Loomis goes back inside. Loomis talks to the man on the floor, which he assumes is Michael, but when he removes the mask, it's Wynn, a.k.a. the Man in Black. He tells Loomis it's your show now, and Loomis screams. Michael is shown walking away, far away, in the Man in Black's clothes, and that's where the movie ends. In the cut, explained in the Wikipedia version, the version I apparently watched originally a few years ago, after Kara is set free, they run, and there is an entirely different chase through some tunnels into a laboratory. Tommy beats the living shit out of Michael with a pipe after injecting him with some stuff. Loomis goes back inside, just like in the other version, but the ending is unknown, likely implying that Loomis dies because he screams, and the only shot is the mask laying on the ground. Both movies kind of suck, and any Halloween storyline without Laurie isn't great, in my opinion, but 4 and 5 are mildly entertaining.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, Halloween H20, 1998.
H2O.
But wait!
There's more!
20 years later, Laurie has a 17-year-old son, and his dad left her and is a drug addict, according to John and Laurie.
And this is back to following OG storyline.
Right. Which they all followed the OG story. Like, it's all like 1 through 6 are on the same arc. Your fork in the road, or we have a couple different storylines, so we have like... So from 1...
I'll see if I can get an infographic on screen while we do this.
Alright, let's go through slowly and carefully so it's not diluted.
Yep.
From 1 and 2, you can go... In 3, take 3,
Throw it away.
throw it over here. Here's 3, he's not involved in any of this. Here's 3, it's gone. Okay. So you can go 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then that storyline is
Dead and
over.
done.
Okay. You can go from 2. You can take 4, 5, 6. Throw those away. And roll into H20 in Halloween Resurrection. Or you can go from 1.
All over.
You can skip 40 years of bullshit
Into H40.
into Halloween, again, just titled Halloween in 2018. And then 2021, Halloween Kills, and 2022, Halloween Ends.
Let's hope.
It's titled that. Let's hope that they're right.
You know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be the whole thing. We're gonna be so confident it's over, and then it's gonna be like a body twitch or something.
Yeah, like Michael's like finger moves, and it's like, oh god, okay. Here comes Halloween didn't end.
Halloween forever.
Halloween forever. Yeah. Yeah.
Or we go with the was it a Jason 2000 or was it Jason X? Whatever the like future one was.
Yeah.
Well, let's go that route. Let's get future tech Michael Myers going.
So 20 years late. Oh yeah, I read that. The movie does not tie into the Jamie Lloyd storyline, though I thought it did briefly due to the newspaper clipping saying that she died in a car accident, which is more explanation than the Jamie Lloyd storyline ever gave. But the story is told as if there were a gap between number 2 and this one that takes place in 1998. It makes sense considering how the timeline would have worked if she had 2 children and she left one child behind to possibly get attacked and took one with her to hide in California. That would be shitty. So the fact that she only has 1 child makes sense.
Sure.
The movie opens back in Illinois with the nurse who apparently took care of Dr. Loomis when he was dying gets killed by Michael. And Michael kills the boys next door, which one of them is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So that's kind of funny.
That's how he figured out where she was, right? Because then wasn't there like a document there or something that the nurse had?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's fine.
If there's one thing for sure is that I don't know. I suppose this scene was just to establish that Michael is back.
Guess who's back?
Laurie is the principal of some private school out in California. The line, "It's Halloween, everyone's entitled to one good scare," is repeated by her secretary who accidentally scared her. Just thought that was a significant tie back to first movie. And Laurie definitely uses "do as I say" exclamation twice to her own son and his girlfriend.
Sure.
So her son John and his friends stay behind from a school trip to party, and Michael kills 2 of the 4 of them. Laurie realizes something is up and goes to the school and saves the day. Goes one-on-one against Michael and wins.
Fucking brave.
Everything looks like it's happily ever after, and then Laurie grabs the coroner's van with Michael in the back in a body bag and drives away. Michael, of course, wakes up and tries to kill Laurie. Laurie slams on the brakes and he flies out the window. She hits him again. They roll down a hill. He gets pinned between a tree and the van. She walks up to him. And so it's explained in the next movie, so I'm just going to say this part.
That's fine.
Because my note immediately was the legality of this would be so crazy to sort out later, but maybe they let it slide because it's Michael Myers.
Yeah.
She has an axe. The guy's like reaching out like,
Yeah.
and then she cuts
Fucking
his head off.
clean cuts it off.
And if you didn't think that storyline could have more, here we are in Halloween Resurrection 2002. Apparently Michael switched outfits with a paramedic that came and found him. He woke
Big brain move on Michael's part.
up, choked him. He was the one put in the body bag, and thus the one Laurie decapitated. His larynx had been crushed, which is why he couldn't say anything to Laurie. Laurie's been put in a mental hospital because of the incident, so
She chopped someone's fucking head off.
so the legality side dealt with from the last movie. Word.
Justice!
Michael infiltrates the mental hospital Laurie's in. Kills her. There is some show being made about college kids spending a night in the Michael Myers house. Spoilers, it turns out he still lives under the house and kills everyone except for a girl named Sarah, who's texting some teenage boy she met on the internet, who she never met in person, and that's why she survived, because he is texting her where Michael is in the house, and Michael gets fried in the shed. Of course, in the coroner's office, he opens his eyes, and the movie ends. That was my whole... Because if we go into the whole thing... in that movie, it just becomes this muddled...
Well, I mean, and let me just say, like, when you read that off, like, that's roughly it. Like, it's not an exaggeration. Like, they spent all their money on having Tyra Banks and the other guy whose name's escaping me now, having them in it. And they're like, oh, we're going to do a TV show thing, and we're going to do jump scares, and it's all going to be fake, but it's going to look real. And then everyone fucking dies.
And then it turned out it was real. So, yeah. So...
that one, I would say, is skippable after just the first, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it all, but I...
Man.
Didn't
enjoy
I didn't enjoy that one. Like, most of these, even though they're bad, I still kind of enjoyed them.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy that one.
This one kind of tapped on, the cringe a little bit. I was just like, man,
Yeah, and then, the dude in the end, whose name escapes both of us, how he's like, hey! He's, all about, the privacy, leaving her alone all of a sudden, even though he's been the guy all along. It's like, it's film this shit, man. Put it on TV. So, odd turn there.
Really changing sides.
Oh, also, if you bring up whatever graphic you had with all the storylines,
Sure.
Just put Rob Zombie remakes over here, 1 and 2. Just
they're there
because they're over here. So they're fun. I like.
They're fun. They're kind of horny. It's a good time.
They're very horny. Rob Zombie loves to show some tits.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So Rob Zombie remake, Halloween 2007.
I forgot one thing I wanted to make just because we had gone through and talked about Death Proof, but with Michael Myers obviously being Death Proof and getting in the car, I thought that this was a prequel to Death Proof. alternate timeline, we get through the events of Halloween 1 and then...
and Michael just keeps the car.
He just keeps the car, ends up traded in as a stuntman because he can't die.
Yeah. Okay.
Alternate timelines getting drawn in.
Because Michael gets away from... So, if we take the one with the Jamie Lloyd storyline, just throw Death Proof in. I guess Planet Terror on the end of that.
Yes. It's going to be a real fucked up timeline at the end of this.
And then, at the end of that graphic, it's just like scribbles. It's just like...
I'm going to try. I'm going to try real hard to get something going.
All right. So, Rob Zombie remake, Halloween, 2007. This movie's somewhat of a modern retelling of the Michael Myers origin story. Michael murders a boy at school, his stepdad and his sister, and and her boyfriend. I wrote in his boyfriend.
It's a really weird family.
There's an odd storyline where Michael's gay.
I have sex with you while you have sex with me while you have sex with her.
So, in essence, as a kid, he murders not only his sister, but also the boyfriend.
A lot of animals.
A lot of animals. His stepdad. And, or did I say the sister's boyfriend?
Yeah.
Boy at school, sister's boyfriend, stepdad. Many animals.
Yeah. I do like how we kind of get that just because, we're having a little bit of like the pre of like, as far as killing the animals. It's like the kind of explaining like, well, it's been there, you guys haven't noticed. And obviously those parents are not ideal.
No, I mean, that stepdad's a real piece of shit. He met his mom because she works at the strip club, and then later on he's talking, not even later, like right in the beginning of the movie, he's talking about another stripper at the strip club.
Yeah.
He has like a broken leg and arm, which is never explained, which is fine.
Yeah. I like to think that he's like not really injured, he's just helpless.
Yeah. He's like someone else going out making the bread.
Yeah.
And his mom's an overworked stripper. And
full respect to strippers. That seems like
full respect to strippers.
It can be a difficult job. So
it's played by Rob Zombie's wife, who's in a lot of his movies, at least in House of Thousand Corpses and
Devil's Rejects,
which is like the best name for a horror movie ever.
Yeah,
like that is. I just had to take a moment and say that's the best horror movie name I've ever heard.
And you need like the movie theater voice, The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah. Like that's just the best. Alright. So all of these activities send Michael to Smith's Grove. And there is a lot of focus on the, sanitarium side of the story of, her coming to visit. And, Michael just keeps going, like, I want to get out of here. And
gradual decline on his
like
personality, his mental
just
state.
Keeps going down. And, part of me wanted, granted, this was a Michael Myers movie, and so Michael Myers is always going to be Michael Myers, but was part of that storyline going, hey, sanitariums are kind of fucked up. Maybe if you did a dose of, home life and, the working on the mental side of things, maybe that
would have
helped him, because it seemed like every time she comes, he's just more beaten down.
And that place is fucking empty. There's no other patients. Again, understaffed. Nobody's ever prepared to actually take care of any situation. In this entire Halloween series.
Yeah, any version of it, any timeline, just So basically, one day Michael, they fuck up. They leave a fork, and Michael kills a nurse as his mom's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
His mom goes home and kills herself, leaves a little
sweet
Lori,
baby child. Yeah,
Angel Myers, but
yeah,
who eventually is Laurie Strode. By the way, in the first Halloween, 78, they never really say what happens to those parents. Just saying.
Who cares?
Yeah, apparently.
Irrelevant.
Yeah. Also, Laurie's parents in 2 never come visit her in the hospital.
Well, I mean, you saw how well it worked out for Michael to continue visiting them.
No, I know. It was just...
Fuck those kids.
Yeah. Alright, anyway. So the mom kills herself, leaves little Laurie, and, and Michael grows up in the sanitarium, and he's a very built guy. For
the
someone,
fucking swollest, biggest monster of a man.
For someone who just sits around in a cell and makes his mask.
There's no way he gets enough protein to look like that.
Maybe he's eating the plaster. I don't know.
Shit, he's probably eating the patients. That's why it's empty.
There's a release form. It's like, do you mind if your son gets eaten by one of the other patients?
We are prepared to compensate. It's cheaper than a burial.
Yeah. We will bury his bowel movement. That makes you feel better.
They just have Michael squat over a grave.
It's all chained up. Michael, go ahead. That is the worst thing I think I've ever said. Alright. Alright, so he grows up very built for someone who sits around and makes masks all day. Loomis is interesting in this movie, kind of a wannabe rock star vibe when he's young. Loomis gives up and leaves, and some hillbillies rape a girl in Michael's room, and he murders his way out of the sanitarium.
As is tradition.
Fair
Yeah.
description, yeah.
Well, you know what? So far, it's like every kill has really been justified outside of that nurse. I mean, she wasn't the kindest to him, but everyone else is kind of a dickhole.
I wouldn't say the sister-boyfriend one was justified. He was more just mad at him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you ever murder someone for not taking you trick-or-treating?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotta block you and get a restraining order.
Yeah, no, let's finish the podcast before I take you out, too.
Yep. I like the way you're looking at me. Alright, so apparently he stashed the mask and the knife in the floor of his old house. Like, bullshit. He retrieves that, and for the most part, we follow the storyline of the original 1978 film from here, give or take a few details until the end.
Yep.
He doesn't kill the second of her two friends, and takes Lori to his house. By the way, Annie's boyfriend Paul did not show up in 78. Like, never showed up to Annie's side. Like, Annie was getting in the car to go get Paul.
Oh.
So Annie dies, but then in this movie, Annie does not die. But Paul dies. Poor Paul. He really dodged a bullet in the 78 film, but...
Yeah, it came
Not
full
here.
circle.
Yeah.
They curved the bullet. It just got him on a different timeline.
And for some reason, like, he didn't kill Annie
Yeah.
in this movie. So, whatever.
Well, the plan probably was to kill her, but was just trying to use her as a little bit of bait. But...
Or, like, they didn't, like, say that she was dead, and then when they went to make 2, they were like, well, did we really make it, like,
we could
finite
keep
that
her
Annie was
alive.
dead?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, not really. It's like, okay, let's keep Annie. And so then there's that whole storyline. I don't know if that was his idea all along. Whatever. She also doesn't shoot Michael in the face like she does in this movie. Like, that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a hard time, but that's basically, like, that's where the storylines differ, but for the most part, it's the same story.
Yeah.
Just this one, I have a hard time believing the old trashy Myers family that we met in the beginning of this movie had a fucking pool in the back.
Yeah, and that thing was huge.
Such a big fucking pool.
There's no way.
Or maybe that's why she was so overworked. And maybe that's why he's got
They're
broken
mortgaged.
limbs. Because he was... That's why that dude's got broken limbs, because he dug that pool himself.
And then fucking fell in.
Yeah. I like the way it ends. I think that's cool. I think there shouldn't have been a number 2. Like, I think, if anything, you should be able to shoot Michael Myers in the fucking head, and it should be done, but
Yeah.
whatever.
And I like when we kind of watched through the, like Rob Zombie talking about him and how there was the alternate ending that would have been like, yeah, she still has no idea what's going on, but the movie's over.
Yeah.
Like, at least the ending we got, at least she got a little bit of information, but like the original ending, it was just, you know, when he had her at knife point, like in front of the house, and then let her go, and then he just got shot to shit.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. A little better. I like that Laurie does it in this version.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's cool.
and the build up and everything was cool. You know, it's like the shoot, click, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Finally goes off, and then she just starts screaming and shit. It's like,
And
oh,
that's how it... Yeah.
it felt good.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a really cool way to end a movie. One fact about this movie and the next is that Danielle Harris, who plays Jamie in Halloween 4 and 5, is her friend Annie in these movies. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, bringing
tying the
people
old
back.
character in. So the Rob Zombie remake of Halloween 2 in 2009 is kind of fun and kind of not. I think it was really not necessary, which is a very common theme in this whole series. But I mean, obviously, like, okay, the way this movie starts is there's text on screen, and text says, "White horse, linked to instinct, purity, and the drive of the physical body to release powerful and emotional forces like rage, with ensuing chaos and destruction." It says it's an excerpt from the subconscious psychosis of dreams. That's how the movie starts, and his mom and a white horse a lot of times lead Michael around all movie. She gives him a white horse in a quick scene from him sitting in Smith's Grove in the mental asylum. They also changed little boys that played Michael. I'm like, it's 2 years later. You couldn't have the same kid. Maybe he had a growth spurt. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
Or a kid could have said no.
He could have said no. Yeah.
Or maybe he's now in that mental hospital due to the trauma. You know.
Yeah. So so he's in the mental hospital. She gave him a white horse. You know, you can think of me whenever you have this white horse, is what she says to him. Moving on. We pick up the night of the last movie's events, common theme in the series. Somehow Jamie's walking down the street, perfectly fine. And then when the sheriff tracks her down, she's screaming in pain and like she's in the hospital and like they're like doing shit to her leg and like, but she was just walking down the street just fine. She's like screaming.
Adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
Apparently, yeah. So yeah. So the coroners take the bodies from the houses. They get Michael in the back. Naturally, Michael escapes after the ambulance hits a cow.
It happens. Look it up.
It happened. Yeah. People hate cows. Yeah. They sort of follow the storyline of the original Halloween 2 when she's like attacked in the hospital, but then it turns out it's all a dream. It's 2 years later and she still has nightmares all the time. Like that whole sequence was a nightmare where she's about to get killed by Michael. Her and Annie fight about everything. Annie's all scarred up in the face from getting cut by Michael.
Poor girl.
Loomis is still selling books, and he's even more pretentious than before. He writes another book based on the experiences of the last movie, revealing Laurie's true identity as Michael's sister, Angel Myers. She's not like this and goes partying with her friends. Annie's home alone. Michael attacks her, effectively kills her. Like, Laurie gets a chance to talk to her for a moment, but then she's dead.
Yeah.
Very, very, like, as far as imagery goes, it is just the most, like, bloody thing you've ever seen. I mean, it's kind of cool, but, like, at the same time, you're like, wow, that's a lot.
Do you get like a little squeamish around some of that stuff when it's too much?
Yeah, but...
Because we talked about like the Saw movies before.
Yeah, those get a bit much.
Those get to be a little excessive.
Yeah. Okay, so Annie's dead. Michael attacks her and the deputy guarding her house. He eventually gets Laurie after some more people die. You know, normal Halloween shit. Michael attacks her and the deputy guarding her. Oh, shit. I just read the same sentence. My bad. He has Laurie held up in some abandoned shack in the middle of nowhere with the imaginary mom and young Michael holding her down, who've been leading Michael around the whole movie. Loomis draws Michael out by going in and confronting him. They shoot Michael as he comes out of the building, out of the little shack. Laurie walks out, picks up Michael's big knife for what the fuck reason, I don't know.
It's symbolic.
But someone shoots her. And then the movie ends, like, you know, she's dead. Like, it pans out, it's like Michael and Laurie are just dead,
yeah.
Right? And then the movie ends with her on a bed in a mental hospital, like with this kind of like evil smile. And then the mom and the white horse are approaching her, and like that's how the movie ends. And so
You have to set up your sequel material, bro.
well, they didn't make any more. Rob Zombie didn't make any more Halloween.
But he's got the option now. If he ever feels like making another.
now that it's yeah.
See, now he can make H4O.
Yeah. He'll make his own H20. In 2027, get ready for Rob Zombie's
Zombie.
H20. Rob Zombie's H20. So that's that whole movie. I didn't like 2. I thought if they left 1 alone, I thought 1 was sweet.
Yeah.
So,
But money.
but money. So, now we get to the series at hand right now,
Yeah.
which is Halloween 2018. So this, as we said, this is the 78, skip 40 years, 2018, kills, ends. This storyline picks up as if no other movie happened except for the original,
Thank God.
and that Michael was locked up that night. They disown the Michael is Laurie's brother storyline. 40 years later, 2 podcast hosts are trying to...
It's too close to home.
It's so like cringy sometimes when they do stuff like that. Like I've seen a couple things, or like a couple TV shows and a couple movies where they've built in this like podcast host storyline. And I guess as like podcasting as a medium just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's easier to
They
make
just
that.
do it, but it still is like that's not normal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People don't do podcasts.
People don't do podcasts. What are you doing? Oh, I'm doing my podcast.
Do a podcast.
Yeah.
But it's different.
It's different. I'm not like going to
It's not like that kind of
I'm gonna
podcast.
go interview serial killers. Come on. So it's like Michael was locked up that night. They disown the sibling storyline. Podcast hosts are going to interview Michael in the asylum before he is transferred to a different one, more heavy security place. Spoilers: the bus crashes and Michael escapes.
As is tradition.
They also interview Laurie for a fee of $3,000 for next to no answers. Michael kills the podcast hosts at a gas station / garage because naturally he has to get his mechanic's jumper for the night. He steals back the mask from them because in the interview where they're trying to, kind of get answers out of him, and he borrowed the mask, and he's like, "Do you feel it, Michael?" And then like all the mental patients start
Just
going
like losing
fucking
their
crazy,
minds.
and it's actually like kind of a good scene.
There's power in the mask.
Yeah,
Nobody cared who I was until I put on the mask.
exactly. I mean, that'll happen when you start murdering people when you put on the mask. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do you know who I am? How about now?
Oh, you're that serial killer.
I should run.
I'm in danger. Alright, so he steals back the mask from them, and we are off. Laurie goes and tries to warn Karen the bus crash, and of course they tell her she is crazy. One of the most like Disney movie type lines from Karen. She's like, you try to make the world like it's a dark place, and the world is full of love and understanding. And it's like, I don't know. That line to me is like, wow.
Why is this here?
Michael begins killing. On-screen kills are pretty intense, pretty graphic, kind of almost pretty cool in this movie if you're into horror stuff.
Yeah.
So
It's
visually the best like Halloween that we've seen.
yeah, we're cool with gore now, man. We like to chop people up and make it look like it hurts.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's like the furthest one, or the most recent one. I mean, other than Kills.
Yeah.
But like it's the most recent Halloween movie. Like, of course, all the on-screen like effects are just like killer.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But yeah.
It's pun intended.
Okay. Michael begins killing. On-screen skills are cool. Michael's new doctor goes all mad scientist and stops the sheriff from shooting Michael in the head after running him over. Stab the sheriff. It's a whole thing. He puts Michael in the back seat of the cop car with Allison. She can't get out because it's a cop car. Michael wakes up eventually when the car is stopped. Doesn't harm Allison. Just instead slams the gate forward, into the doctor. Uses his door to get out. Takes the doctor. Stomps his head into raspberry jelly. Which is like, whoa.
Yeah.
Allison gets out, runs through the woods, is looking for her grandmother's house. then the other cops that were sitting up the road going like, what the fuck's going on over there? Michael naturally kills them. Drives the cop car up to the house. Allison's dad and, Karen's husband, Ray, he comes outside because they're all holed up in Laurie's house trying to find Allison. They're waiting for Allison to be found. They want to all hole up there in Laurie's fortress, really, is what it is.
See, we just need underground bunkers, man.
Right. She, almost did it right. So close. But, so what happens is Ray gets killed, and then Michael goes in the house. Karen hides under the island. Laurie has had all this time to prepare, and still Michael breaks in the house. She's standing at her front door. There's these two rectangular windows on either side, and she's standing between them. And then Michael, of course, reaches his hands in, starts choking her. It's you're so close!
Yeah.
You put the fucking bar in front of the door, you did so well. And then
You only missed the most obvious weaknesses.
you did something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Laurie blows a couple of his fingers off to, get out of that one. And
It's almost a shock that they don't instantaneously regenerate.
I know. I meant to, when I watched Halloween Kills, look for continuity there to see if they were still gone. I didn't watch for it, but it is a pretty sweet fucking visual when Michael, they make this movie, for lack of a better term, because all the gore, I know people get weird about the whole gory Halloween movie shit.
Yeah.
So I don't want to glorify it, but
It's kind of lit.
it's such a fucking metal shot of Michael standing in the house, this hand with 2-3 fingers left, and just the knife in the other hand, and that fucking, where the shotgun blew the fingers off is just dripping.
Yeah.
And it's just this shadowy,
Silhouette. And...
I mean, it's just one of the coolest shots
Yeah.
in the whole series. If you're into the original Halloween, story, and then them, referencing the history in, Halloween Kills, again, and, kind of this, resurrecting this story. Not resurrection, but they resurrect the story of the original, and, just a lot of the facts stay consistent. They just kind of change some stuff up. I mean, if you like that, these two movies, and I'm imagining Halloween Ends, are pretty fucking cool. Just the whole storyline. Anyway, moving on. So Michael walks around. Laurie comes up to investigate, throws her out the second story window after stabbing her. Terrible error on Laurie's end of having a room full of mannequins. Because she walks in the one room, and that's where Michael ends up being, of course. But she's
I know a bunch of things that are really good at standing still.
Yeah.
I sure hope Michael isn't in here.
Yeah, of course he is. Michael looks down, and, shades of the first Halloween movie. Laurie's gone. Allison finds her way to the house. Karen lets her in the basement. Michael discovers it. Karen plays emotional possum. And then when Michael peeks his head out, Karen shoots her in the face. God damn, so close. Bitch, shoot him in the brain now. Karen lets... so Michael comes down the basement. And, they climb out. He almost gets Karen. They get out. Bars come across. And then Laurie's got this shit set up where there's a fucking gas pipe in every room. She opens up the valves. And, the house fucking blows up. Michael's in a burning house.
Because that's ever worked before.
Right. Not to say the visual is pretty fucking sweet in Halloween Kills, where he's standing on the fucking porch, just everything's on fire, and just holding the fucking bloody eye. I don't know. Visually, these movies are so fucking sweet.
Yeah, a lot of wallpaper material kind of things where you just cut out a scene and be like, oh shit. That's...
I could totally have a Halloween Kills Michael poster of just him on the fucking, or just that one, the shot from this movie with him missing fingers.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So they set the house on fire. They hitchhike a ride to the hospital. They're in a truck bed. And in my opinion, this is just where it should have ended. Like, I don't think they should have went with a sequel, though I do like the stuff that's happening in Kills, and I like where it's going for Halloween Ends.
But story-wise, it definitely
But
would have been
story-wise,
safe to end it.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
Just stop writing scripts.
But it's fine, because if you're going to continue to make money, as long as this one was pretty good, just do it again.
Yeah.
And then, worst case scenario, well, the first one was good. Or, last one was good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So in my opinion, this is where it should have ended, but as Stu says in Scream, these days you gotta have a sequel. So they do change the story a little bit and say that Hawkins stopped Loomis from shooting Michael. That's not in the original Halloween. I mean, well, it goes into it in Halloween Kills, which, picks up where we left off, as is tradition. Cameron Allison's boyfriend's moping around in his, Bonnie outfit, finds Hawkins laying on the ground. Sheriff Hawkins. Hawkins says he has to be the one to kill Michael, and we flash back to Halloween 1978, and the police are chasing Michael Myers around town. Back to the old Myers house where Michael holds Hawkins' fellow officer in a headlock, and while trying to shoot Michael, Hawkins shoots his fellow officer. Also, a boy named Lonnie, who's being teased, has a face-to-face encounter with Michael, and Michael doesn't harm him, just walks by. So after the opening credits, we open up on the couple who was leaving dressed as doctors earlier. They show that couple as Michael's walking down the street, and it's kind of like across the street from... Excuse me. Nope. There it is. It's kind of across the street where that little kid Julian was being babysat by one of Laurie's friends, of course,
Yeah.
in the previous movie. So, same couple. And they're at a bar, and basically whatever work party they're at, irrelevant. Irrelevant. They're at a bar. Tommy Doyle and company are there talking about the anniversary of Halloween 1978. Laurie's going to the hospital, and the fire department is on their way to Laurie's burning house, and they're, Laurie's like, let it burn. Of course, it's a whole thing. Michael Myers escapes due to a fireman falling through the floor, and then Michael proceeds to kill all the firemen. Like, literally, they all, like Kung Fu style, they all come
One
up
by
to him
one.
one by one, and Michael finds, like, a creative way to cut their head off or, put an axe in their head or whatever the fuck.
It might as well have been a murder montage.
It was. Just happening in real time.
Eye of the Tiger plays in the background.
Yeah. The bar decides to go all angry mob and try to go find Michael after a mental patient stole a car. All of them are killed except Lindsay Wallace. The mental patient turns up at the hospital, and they're all stupid as can be, and they think it's Michael. Like, the guy's not tall enough, not...
Do the math.
He's not wearing a mask. Like, Michael's never come to the hospital. Saying, help me.
Help me. Or really spoken.
Or spoken ever in his life.
That should have been the first sign.
Yeah, I mean, the only time Michael speaks in these movies is when it's in the Rob Zombie remakes, and they kind of break the rules. Like Michael's never grunting when he's stabbing people,
Yeah.
or beating people with stuff. But there's a lot of like grunts,
Like,
and,
breathing and...
yeah. And he says "die" in Halloween 2. Most of the words spoken were in Halloween 2 of the Rob Zombie version, but never says a goddamn word. And so that should have been your first indicator. But these people are...
They haven't seen the movies. They
haven't seen the movies. They don't know.
Yeah.
Fucking idiots. So at the same time, Michael returns to his old home, where a couple by the names of Big John and Little John are killed.
Not Little John.
Yeah. Hawkins flashes back to 1978 once more when talking to Laurie, because he survived, even though he was stabbed in the neck. Flashback to 78 once more, and we get a little more to that scene that was at the beginning of the movie, where Loomis was apparently about to shoot Michael in the head, but Hawkins stopped him. He says to Laurie, like, all I could see was that, it's somebody's little kid, and then he's like, I know now that there's nothing there, and he just needs killed, and so,
Yeah.
So apparently if he would have just fucking killed him, shot him in the head, cut his head off, Laurie's got the right idea.
Yeah.
But
Or, wood chipper. I feel like that.
I think a wood chipper just works so great.
Yeah. It'd be fun.
It really would.
But then, I swear to God, like I said, then I'm surprised, hands not regenerating on the spot. His fucking sludge of blood and guts would just start reassembling, even like the
Liquid metal Terminator.
exactly. See, and then that's where we full loop back to 3, right? With the Skynet robots.
So again, here are all the timelines. Just like throw Terminator 3 on that, and then just like.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So apparently, Hawkins. If Hawkins would just let Loomis kill him, it's over. And the other deputies kind of cover for Hawkins. They're like, "Look, just say Michael killed him." Yada yada. So the mental patient ends up, jumping off like a high floor of the hospital and killing himself, and then everybody's like, "Oh, we fucked up," and then like all the rational people were like, "Yeah." Allison, Cameron, and Lonnie go to Michael's house. Lonnie is Cameron's dad. Lonnie was one of the kids back in '78. It's Tommy Doyle's age. Lonnie, I never finished that bar scene thing. Lonnie, Tommy Doyle, whatever the nurse's name that was helping Loomis with the transport that night in '78, and Lindsay Wallace, the other child being babysat. They were all at the bar.
Drowning their sorrows.
Well, just like celebrating the 4-year anniversary, and Tommy gives a little speech on stage and yada yada. So, anyway, that's what's happening in the bar. And then the mob, the stuff comes on TV, and then the mental patient steals the car, and then that's a whole thing, and here we are. So Lonnie goes in alone. Allison and Cameron are sitting in the car, and they hear one lone gunshot, and they go in after him. Michael makes light work of Cameron, and is about to kill Allison before her mom stabs him with a pitchfork. By the way, the Cameron kill is fucking gruesome.
Yeah.
Like, he's upstairs, and of course Allison falls down the stairs, just like Laurie in the first one. So they're kind of doing their homages.
Yeah. Nice touch.
Yeah. But he's got Cameron, like, upstairs on the railings, and he's just, like, slamming his head, like, and then, like, just leaves him kind of in the banister, right? And then Michael's coming down the stairs, sees his head, and then just twists his head, like, 180 degrees.
Like, I'm not done with it.
Yeah.
That's better.
And then comes after Allison. So Michael's about to kill Allison, and then Karen comes in, stabs him with a pitchfork in the back. Karen takes Michael's mask, runs off with it, leading him into a trap of just a angry mob of citizens. Which is, again, where the movie should have ended, but no one had the sense to, like, cut his head off, put 30 bullets in his brain, anything. Wood chipper. Sheriff Brackett, the original Sheriff Brackett from the movie, the 78 movie, is just this old man. And
I remember.
He even gets to have his old line. Everyone's entitled to one good scare. Michael puts his mask on to take his beating. Not one person is smart enough to cut his head off. Karen goes to be with her daughter. Laurie talks, Laurie's kind of monologue is just hovering over all this stuff. How he isn't something you can beat with brute force, and Michael wakes up from his beating, massacres everyone that beat on him. Karen goes upstairs. Yeah, Karen goes upstairs and looks out the window where Michael would always stand in his sister's room. The movie ends as Michael comes up behind her. She turns around. Michael kills the fuck out of her. Roll credits. And yeah. So that's all of it.
It's a lot of Halloween.
That's all the timelines. Briefly done. Maybe we can go into, like, the individual movies and some other podcast, but not likely.
Yeah.
I don't think they're worth the time.
1 and 2, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe, like we had the idea of doing the Friday the 13th stuff on, like, every time a Friday the 13th came out.
And then...
But again, I don't think all of that. Like it would take literally. It would take like I think it calculated out to like 8 years to get all the Friday the 13th movies covered because there's so many of them. To do one Friday the 13th podcast every however many years. So I'm thinking we might just do a Friday the 13th series podcast the next time there's a Friday the 13th and just be done with it.
Yeah, that's probably safer.
Yeah, kind of like this. Brief summaries of everything. Have an understanding of kind of what the storylines are trying to do every time. And anyway, I hope this was enlightening for anyone sitting out there going, what the fuck? How does Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers relate to Halloween Kills? How does H20 relate to, like, you know.
Again, there'll be a lovely graph for you guys to look at, and hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Any predictions for Halloween Ends? Do you think Halloween ends? Or do you think Michael's going to jerk awake at the last second?
Here's the thing about money.
Or will it be... Well, right. Okay. But do you think...
I think
this storyline that seems to be doing things kind of right and kind of like fun. Like I'm having fun with the 2 sequels that have come out here based on 78 being the only other movie. I feel like they're doing it right, and I feel like to continue to do it right, like you actually do end Halloween. And I feel like the franchise has to know that like the
track record hasn't been there where it's
mockery of all of this.
Exactly. So I mean, part of me is going for the greed side of it, where it's like, listen, we have a long running series. Every time we do this, we make a profit.
Right.
It's guaranteed money. So part of me is like, well, of course it's going to be, some, maybe he's still alive by the end of it. Maybe they leave it more ambiguous so they can let it be dead, see how much money they make box office, and then maybe start production after that. Maybe they leave it open to that, and they just kind of let what box office, maybe like first week goes and make that call for them.
Yeah.
But I think if kind of like we said, like if they're looking at it, it's like, listen, we fucked up before. We know if we continue to make sequels, eventually one's going to suck and we're going to ruin a little bit of what we have so far. I would rather it ends. I'd rather it be done and dead.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather it ended, back in 78.
Yeah.
If I'm 100% honest. But I am enjoying these.
Yeah.
These most recent ones. But I think what I think you could probably do is like if they, cause like you said, it is guaranteed money, like every time.
Yeah.
As long as it's like a half decent movie. So I think if you stick with this storyline, saying like this storyline is like the Bible. This is the one and only thing. All the other stuff was like, we lost our way. We shouldn't have made that Halloween Resurrection movie. Our bad. But you could kind of like Marvel it a little bit, where Marvel has their movies, but they also have these like limited series.
Yeah.
Here and there where they do stuff, and you could, like, for example, kind of the alternate story, like, I don't know, some kind of series where how in the Rob Zombie Halloweens they go with Michael in the sanitarium a lot. If they did something like that with,
or just kind of
Michael, like you could do
section.
6-year-old Michael to 21-year-old Michael, kind of like checking in on him in those 15 years of like failed therapy by Loomis. A documentary about Loomis's life, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It'll be a TV series. It'll be 8-hour-long episodes, and it'll be called Myers.
Yeah, that would work.
Make billions.
You could
People
just have a movie of like, I'd love to see a movie called like, the Laurie Strode story, and like seeing, her daughter Karen get taken away from her.
Yeah.
And the failed marriages, and her training this 12-year-old daughter to, use guns and hide from Michael Myers and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, if you want to do more with it, stick to this story. Don't make new storylines.
Yeah, no, they'll bastardize it and they'll do a prequel where it's like, oh, here's a secret story before Michael was born. that, you know, still falls in line with everything, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
kept it hidden because people get adopted and we ship them off out of state and
Yeah.
whatever.
I just like the way they did this because they do abandon like no mention of the cult stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and
Excellent move.
Excellent move. No mention of the sibling stuff. I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
Good move, I thought. You know, because I think the whole fun of Michael in that first movie is just like, oh no, this guy's killing everybody.
Yeah. A little more like senseless, and that makes it more like the thriller horror.
Yeah. Just stop. Why? As
I don't
opposed
know.
to like, no, I know why, Michael. Come on, that's kind of fucked
Let's
up.
talk
Stop.
about this.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe that kind of takes away from the monster of a character if you think you have like you can reason with him. You know, if there's this 9'14" man, you know, just chasing you
Yeah.
with a big old kitchen knife for 26 movies.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no, like, dialogue to be had with him. It's like, stop it, I know why you're upset. And it's just more of like, oh, shit, it's that guy. Like, that's scarier when you're just like, we gotta go.
That's danger. That's
That
everything that is danger.
That
right
is
there.
the danger, man. We've gotta go.
Yeah. I don't know. So I hope they don't do... they'll fuck it up. It's not even like predictions at this point. It's just like... I mean, they're gonna leave him alive or something. And if they kept on with this storyline, he just kept living and whatever. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Because at least these three movies were a good storyline. Oh, well, the third I don't know about because I haven't seen yet. But so far,
Off on the right foot.
this sequel of three movies is fun. So, all right. Well, if you're seeing or hearing this, it's October 30th, at least, of 2022. You know, obviously, people can watch and listen whenever they fucking want to. But just know that on the 31st of October of 2022, it is. We will have a Halloween Ends episode. We will go see it. We will. Bella, I am recording a podcast. Please do not do that, dog. Thank you. My dog Bella, everybody. So we'll have a quick review podcast tomorrow or whenever the hell you see this or hear this. So, thank you for listening and viewing. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever the fuck. And
Find us, watch us, love us, talk to us, email us, comment us.
Content Crisis Hotline, yahoo.com. At Content Crisis 1 on Twitter. Goodbye. Any last words?
No, I'm good.
Or actually, I'm the one with last words. You're going to kill me, right?
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, actually, we can fade to black. Actually,
Ready?
get a pretty good point